On a rainy autumn morning, single dad Jack crosses paths with a tired young soldier, Emma, waiting alone at a bus stop. Something about her silent strength and worn-out eyes stirs his heart. Jack offers Emma shelter, a warm meal, and more than that, a sense of home. The awkward beginnings slowly melt into mutual respect and unexpected emotional connection. As they share stories, Emma reveals the battles she's faced, not just on the front lines but in her soul. Jack opens up about the loss of his wife and the struggles of solo parenting. The rain had started early that morning, soft and persistent, tapping against the windows of Jack Turner's modest home like a gentle reminder that the world never stopped moving. Even after all he'd been through, mornings were still his favorite time of day. It was the quiet before the rush, the moment when his daughter Lily would wake up with her tangled hair and sleepy smile, shuffling to the kitchen to ask if they were late for school, even when they weren't. Jack had learned to find beauty in the small things. He had to. Ever since Anna passed away 2 years ago, every day had been a practice in balancing grief and gratitude. He had Lily, and that was enough to keep going. Some days, it felt like she was the only thing holding the broken pieces of him together. Other days, she was the reason he laughed again. Life hadn't turned out how he planned, but it hadn't stopped surprising him either. As he zipped up Lily's jacket and handed her a bright pink umbrella, he reminded her to step over the puddles and not stomp into them. She nodded, then did exactly the opposite the moment they left the porch, giggling as water splashed up around her boots. Jack rolled his eyes, but smiled. She had her mother's laugh, light and contagious. Their walk to school was only about 10 minutes, a familiar path lined with cracked sidewalks, crooked mailboxes, and the occasional friendly wave from neighbors. But this morning, something was different. Jack noticed it halfway down Main Street. A figure stood at the bus stop across the street. A young woman, alone, wearing a heavy military uniform soaked through with rain. Her duffel bag sagged at her feet, and her posture, though upright, looked impossibly wary. She didn't move, didn't look around. She simply stood, staring ahead, as if lost in a world that didn't quite recognize her anymore. Jack slowed his steps. Lily looked up at him. "Daddy, that soldier's getting wet," she said softly. Jack nodded, his eyes fixed on the woman. The world moved around here. Cars sped past, people with umbrellas hurried to work, but no one stopped. Jack did. Something about the way she stood, the exhaustion in her eyes, reminded him of the weight he'd carried for so long. She looked like she was holding herself together out of sheer discipline. He hesitated, glancing at the time. Lily would be late if they didn't keep moving, but some moments were more important than schedules. "Come on," he said, gently tugging Lily's hand. "Let's go talk to her." They crossed the street slowly. Jack approached the soldier with a cautious kindness. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you all right?" She blinked, as if waking from a dream. Her face was pale and tired, her lips slightly blue from the cold. "I'm fine," she said quickly. "Just waiting for the bus." Jack nodded. "You've been standing here a while." She glanced away. "I'm trying to get back to Fort Rainier. I missed the last connection. Figured I'd just wait." Jack looked down the road. The buses weren't running on time. They never did in this weather, and judging by her soaked clothes, she'd been there for more than an hour. "Look, I know I'm a stranger, and I'm not trying to be weird," he said, "but I live a few blocks from here. My daughter and I were just heading that way. Why don't you come with us? Dry off, have a hot drink. You can call the base from there." "You're coming with me?" She looked stunned, her hand tensed on the strap of her bag, and she glanced between Jack and Lily, who stood clutching her father's arm. "I'm Jack," he added, "and this is Lily. She's 6. She runs the house." That turned a flicker of a smile from the woman. It was small, but it was real. "Emma," she said. "Private First Class Emma Reed." Jack nodded. "Well, Emma, you're safe with us." He picked up her duffel without waiting for permission. She hesitated again, then followed them. Their walk home was quiet. Lily chattered about her school project, her favorite book, and how she thought soldiers were superheroes. Em listened, but said little. Jack could feel her discomfort, and not from them, but from accepting help at all. She had the air of someone used to doing everything alone, of never showing weakness. He recognized that. He lived it. Inside the house, Jack led her to the living room and handed her a towel. Lily ran to her room to fetch one of her stuffed animals to show Emma. "Sorry for the mess," Jack said, gesturing to scattered toys and a half-finished Lego castle. "We're not exactly Martha Stewart around here." Emma smiled faintly. "It's warm, that's what matters." Jack went to the kitchen and started the coffee pot. The smell filled the house, comforting and familiar. He brought a steaming mug to Emma and watched her wrap her hands around it gratefully. "How long have you been traveling?" he asked. "3 days," she said. "I had leave to visit my mom in Florida. She's been sick. Thought I'd surprise her." Boot to broken bar. Things didn't go as planned. Jack didn't press. He simply nodded. "My car broke down in Ohio," she continued. "Got a ride, then a freight, then a Greyhound. Last leg was supposed to be this morning. Guess I didn't check the local bus schedules." "You've been through a lot," Jack said gently. Emma didn't respond, but her silence said enough. Lily returned and proudly presented Emma with a drawing she'd made the night before, a big heart with the words "Be Brave" written in uneven crayon letters. "I made this for school," she said. "But you can have it, 'cause you're a real hero." Emma stared at the paper. Her lip quivered just slightly. Then she reached out and took it, folding it carefully like it was made of gold. "Thank you," she whispered. The hours passed more quickly than Jack expected. He offered Emma lunch, and she accepted. They ate grilled cheese and tomato soup while Lily told stories that made them all laugh. For the first time, Emma seemed to breathe freely. Jack noticed the way her shoulders relaxed, the way her voice grew a little stronger. After lunch, Jack called the base for her, explaining the situation. They arranged to send a vehicle to pick her up later that evening. "You've got a few hours to rest if you want," he offered. "There's a guest room, nothing fancy." Emma nodded slowly. "Thank you, Jack." "Really?" He shrugged. "You do the same for someone else." "I have," she said quietly. "But it's different when someone does it for you." Jack understood that better than he could say. Emma lay down in the guest room, and Lily tiptoed in to place her teddy bear on the pillow next to her. When Jack peeked in an hour later, Emma was asleep, curled on her side, breathing deeply for what looked like the first time in days. The sun broke through the clouds around 4, casting golden light through the windows. When Emma awoke, Jack was in the kitchen making tea. She joined him, looking a little more like herself. "Thanks for letting me rest," she said. "You needed it." They sat in silence for a while before Emma spoke again. "I lost a friend 2 weeks ago," she said suddenly. "In Afghanistan. My unit didn't even have time to process it before we were reassigned. I came home for a break. Boot to broken bar. Nothing really felt like home." Jack listened without interrupting. "When I saw you this morning," she said, "I thought, he's just going to walk by like everyone else. But you didn't feel right," Jack said. "It meant more than you know." She looked at him, eyes shining with something between gratitude and vulnerability. He saw in her a reflection of his own past, of those early days after Anna died, when the world felt too heavy and too silent, and kindness from strangers had felt like lifelines. The base car arrived just after 6. Emma packed her things quietly, lingering near the front door. Lily hugged her tight. "Will you come back?" Emma smiled. "If I can." Jack walked her to the porch. "Thank you," she said again. "Anytime," he replied. "And I mean that." She hesitated, then stepped forward and hugged him. It was brief but meaningful. Then she was gone. Weeks passed, and life returned to its regular rhythm. Jack often thought about Emma, where she was, how she was doing. Lily continued to ask about her, and they wrote a letter to the base with Lily's drawings and Jack's thanks. Then, one afternoon in spring, there was a knock at the door. Jack opened it to find Emma standing there, this time dry and smiling, with a small duffel bag and a bouquet of wildflowers. "I got reassigned to a base nearby," she said. "Figured I owed you a visit." Jack grinned. "You're always welcome." And from that day forward, Emma became more than a visitor. She became family. What began with a single act of compassion at a bus stop turned into something none of them expected: a story of healing, of connection, of finding pieces of yourself in the kindness of others. And it all started because someone stopped long enough to say, "You're coming with me."